So in the last session, we have covered event binding. Also, the property binding, which is nothing but over here, style binding. So we have the style called as font size. If you want to give a font size to this input box, in CSS, what do you write? Or in you will write style. So you will write style is equals to font size and 2em. So this you will do font size equals to 2em. But if you want to do in an Angular style, you can say style dot name of the property, name of the style, that's the font size, and the 2em. That's how you will do. Correct? That's why this is the style binding. Any of the style you can get bound with. Any style dot border, whatever you want to do, you can do over here. So this is a kind of property binding, but more specifically to the styles. That's why this is called the style binding. Well, let's create a new folder. So event binding, okay, pipes will cover later on. Template references we will cover today. Attribute binding, okay. So these are nothing but what your property bindings. So whenever you will use Bootstrap, you will find something like attr dot whatever name of the attribute, and that is equals to the expression. So attr is a HTML5 concept, remember that, custom attributes. So attributes can be bound, right? Styles can be bound and the classes can be bound. Okay, so let's cover all these things today, and let's wrap up with the binding concept today. Okay, so day 52.
Binding means we actually
Assign. So if you remember, I drawn a diagram. You give something to the element and you receive something from the element. All this is nothing but what? The binding. Angular or web dev Angular cd day 51, day 52, I'm sorry, cd day 52. Tell me the command for creating new Angular project.
ngGC.
Creating new Angular project.
ngNew.
New, name of the Angular, binding, remaining. Okay, new binding remaining. Hit the enter. I want to use a CSS. Do you want to use server side rendering? No. You don't want to create the server side rendering, right? Day 52. How shall I run the project? Can you tell me?
Start
What?
project.
What is the command?
npm start.
Correct. npm start. So it's still loading some dependencies. You wait for a few minutes. Yeah, completed. Now here cd. Here you can say cd cd day 50. We are in a day 52, binding remaining, and npm start. So localhost 4200, right? New project have been created. We can easily integrate we can easily integrate what? Bootstrap, not a big deal. App.routes.ts, you don't need right now, delete it. App config, you don't need this guy. Until you use a router, you don't need these things. Just delete it. The spec file also you don't need, delete it. App component ts, config, main ts, that's it. That's enough now.
So Anil, all like property binding, event binding, data binding, all have its own syntax.
Correct.
Like for data binding, uh, sorry, we use square brackets.
Correct.
Then
For property
like
binding, you use square brackets.
right, right.
For event binding, you use a round bracket.
Round bracket.
For string
And
interpolation, you
this is
use
curly.
double curly brackets. Right? Fine. So you have a section now, right? And if there is any attribute attr dot hi, this is the attribute binding, and we can say how are you, attr hi, and here I can say h1, hi, how are you. So custom attributes can be provided in HTML5. HTML5 says that you can provide the custom attributes, and this is nothing but what? Hi, can you see? To the element you have given one your custom attribute called as hi. This can be read in the JavaScript in some ways. So this is an attribute binding. I will write all the bindings together. Here I can have one more section, and I can say input type, and this type property binding. You need to pass string over here. Input type text, placeholder. This is the property binding. Placeholder number. Or bindings. So this is property binding. Event binding. Input type button. Value, okay. Value, okay. And click event. Click event. Right? So you can have one variable. So here we can h1, and here I can say title. So here we can write a function. Title is equals to abc. Binding remaining, this is given title. Click on the OK, it becomes abc. Remember that this thing is a function, inline function. Either you write the function over here in the TypeScript and assign it over here, or there is only one liner of the code to the function, you can write that code here only. But this is a bad practice, because you need to trace the functions in the TS only. You shouldn't come over here. So this is the interpolation, right? This syntax event binding, this syntax property binding, right? If you want to apply style, I want to apply the border, style dot border, and here I can give a value 1px solid red. Say style binding. Okay. Section, one more section. I can say h1 class binding. What is a class binding? let's create a class in a CSS. So dot bk, and here you can say background color is cadet blue. I want to apply this class to this section. So here you can say class dot bk is equals to true or false. If you say true, this would be getting applied. If you say false, this would be getting removed. So you can have a variable over here is bk is equals to false, and on the click of this we might change the value of the bk. Is bk is equals to not is bk. If this is true, we will make false. If this is false, we will make true. The impact of this would be, here you can say assign that variable is bk, right? See, color is getting added, color is getting removed, added, removed, added, removed. Class binding, you can apply the classes with the true or false. If class is existing there and you wanna apply class.bk is bk. Is bk is one of the variable that you are changing on the click of the button. Is bk is one of the variable that you are changing in a function. Is bk is equals to toggling just. If it is true, make it false. If it is false, make it true.
So just go into the .css file.
Mm-hmm.
Here you just mention the color. Okay?
Yeah, our simple CSS.
But just go into that last section.
Uh-huh.
This way also we can
Right.
assign.
Correct. Class.
It understand like if true or false accordingly. This value is set and received.
Correct. So if this class you wanna apply, it should be true. Class.bk. If you wanna apply this bk class to this section, it should be true. Otherwise, it would be false.
Okay. That means if it is false, then this class proper class value should not be applied to that section.
Correct. So see here.
This is different.
See here. Can you see this class binding? Okay. So there is no class is applied to this guy. Now see here, class bk is applied. No class is getting applied. Class bk is applied. Can you see that? Class bk is applied. This is the pure DOM manipulation done by the Angular. You don't need to do any kind of thing. Angular will take care of this internally, this DOM manipulation. That's why you go with the DOM manipulation and not with the plain HTML, CSS3 and JavaScript. Okay. Two-way bind. Yeah.
Yeah. Please explain the first, that is section attribute binding. How first section.
So for that, first you need to know what are the HTML5 custom attributes. HTML5 custom attributes. You can create such attributes on your own. Can you see that? So purpose of these attributes, you can read them in JavaScript. These things, if you go to the Bootstrap, you will find a lot of custom attributes. Model. Yeah, can you see this? Data BS dismiss. This is not HTML, standard HTML document, right? This is not a standard HTML attribute. This is created by specifically Bootstrap people. Area label. This is specifically created by Bootstrap people. Tab index. Can you see that? So internally these things are getting used to show, this model. You can also create your own things. So these are nothing but what? Custom attributes. You can create your own attributes and you can access them in a JavaScript. That's the main intention of them. You can access them in a JavaScript. And if that is the case, you can access those by means of this area.high, right? Custom attribute high. So Bootstrap team have decided to use these for the model and they use internally. Correct? And
so in our code, what will happen?
Nothing will happen right now. There is no significance of this right now. But if you use the third-party frameworks like this, and if you wanna get bound with this property, right? If you are using third-party framework like Bootstrap and you wanna get bound with this thing, you will write attr dot. Now hyphens are replaced. This should be capital B. This should be capital D. Something like hello, like this. So presently Bootstrap has not been integrated, so there is no significance. But if you have something like this in your framework, how do you get bound with this thing? Angular says that attribute binding.
So attr is a reserved word.
Reserved word. Attr like style, like class, it's a reserved word, which will understand it's a custom attribute binding. Here it will understand it's a style binding. Here it will understand it's a class binding. Got it?
And please show me the output of the second section.
See here.
Second one is what?
This one?
Yeah, property. Property. Okay.
Okay. Two-way binding. This is not a concept. Remember that. Two-way binding is not any concept. Input type is equals to text. On change, and here so I want to assign this to this variable IP is equals to empty. So two-way binding in Angular. So when you say two-way binding, this two-way binding is nothing but what? See here, property binding. It's a combination of event binding plus property binding, right? Combines the brackets of property binding and the event binding. It does both the things together. It does what?
Both the things.
Both the things together. It is doing that both things together. Property binding. Event binding plus property binding together. So, what we need to do, the change ng model. I think for ng model also we need to import something. Class binding. For ng model also we need to have some module. Just a minute. Okay. So try to understand what do you mean by two-way binding. Two-way binding gives components in application a way to share data. Use two-way binding to listen for the events and update the values simultaneously. Listen for the events and update the values simultaneously. Okay. So if there is a situation, where you need to assign the value as well as listen for the event, assign the value as well as listen for the event, at that time you will go ahead with what you can say, at that time you will go ahead with this property binding. Okay, so I'm trying to figure it out. ngModel will not work because we need to import one forms module over there. Here if you write IP, okay, let's import the forms module. Forms module. Now what is forms module, we will see here. As I'm typing, can you see automatically these properties are getting changed? The text is getting changed. Can you see? So event of this is bound with this IP variable. What is happening? The event of this input is bound with the IP variable. So from here you are generating the event, at the same time you are assigning the generated value. Here you are generating the event, at the same time you are assigning the value, and that's why it is happening something like this. Hello world, right? So input type text. Internal brackets are nothing but so internal round brackets are nothing but, you can say, property event binding, and rectangular brackets are nothing but what? Property binding.
So this ngModel is what
Yeah,
exactly?
ngModel is, you can consider one internal variable. We are going to see that at the time of the forms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that in detail later on. But to understand correctly, what do you mean by two-way binding? Something is, so this input box is generating event. That event is captured over here, assigned to this variable, and the value is assigned to this IP again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is similar to something like this. Value, I can say value is equals to IP, and event is the input event, and here we can say input event. So here we have IP is equals to dollar event dot value, dollar event dot value. Okay, now concern is that this thing, event dot target dot value. So this is IP, value is IP, event,
Change event.
no, input event, that is correct, as HTML input element dollar event dot target, as HTML input element dot value. Okay, let's write a function, handle input event. Here we can say EV is of type event, EV is of type event, and const IP is equals to event dot target as HTML. This is the bad practice, HTML input element. You have converted that target to the HTML input element, and then you can say okay, and this here you can say this dot IP means that variable is equals to IP control dot value, right? And handle input event, assign it instead of this all the stuff, and just pass dollar event as a parameter. Refresh it, and can you see here? So all four places it is happening because we have assigned one variable everywhere. So meaning of this one line is exactly equals to this thing. So you are capturing the event and assigning to the IP variable, and same IP you are assigning to the value of the input box. So whatever you have done over here, you have done straight away in a two-way binding. Two-way binding is not any concept. It is just the combination of the property binding plus event binding on the same variable.
Mm-hmm.
Property binding and event binding on what? Same variable. And here we have used the IP variable. This IP variable is used here also, and same IP variable is used here also. Whatever you will type, that would be assigned here, and whatever you will type, that will again assigned over here because of this two-way binding.
So here, I mean, in first case, whatever we are typing, we are getting it from this that variable you initialize with blank, right?
Blank, correct.
So whatever you are typing, how you are getting that?
So initially it's a blank. If I type something like this, you will see that over here. Can you see?
Right. But I mean, whatever you are writing over there in the input box, that value, how can you get in that string interpolation using string interpolation?
No, you are, yeah, printing, you are saying. Here you are printing this one.
Means suppose you type ABC. Okay, so you are getting the value from the input control, that value as ABC.
Here, right? This value.
But that is printed as string interpolation.
So this is
that
getting.
That I understand, but whatever you type in the text box, how can you get that value?
That's what I'm explaining. First, you are capturing the input event. Look at this. First, you are capturing the input event, right? And inside this input event, you are assigning the value you have typed to this IP variable. Whatever value you have typed, that assigning to this IP variable over here. And that IP variable is again input to the same input box. So whatever you type over here is giving input over here. Whatever you type, all the type events are captured over here, and that are input to this IP. Right? What is the IP? One of the variable, and that is property bound with this input box. And these two things separately I have written over here, and in one line I have written over here short syntax. So meaning of this is exactly equals to this, capturing the input event plus assigning the value to the input box.
So here, in case of simple HTML for input box, if suppose value, we specify the value, that will be, we can see in the text box, right? But here, how it automatically understand IP is a variable and consider its value.
Correct. No, it's because of the property binding.
Because of that square bracket.
Yes. Because of this syntax, it is considering IP is a variable.
And if it is removed, it will show the text as IP.
Correct. It will show simply IP. That's what the can you see IP you are getting? That is what the property binding we have studied. IP would be considered as a variable. And this is the two-way binding.
Can you please add the comment for these two sections, like heading,
two-way binding,
and also for the last section?
That is not, it is not any kind of thing.
Yeah, but we can achieve this using function.
Same as two-way binding.
Right.
Okay.
For the reference.
Yeah. Now custom events. So I will create own component. Say app dot mobile dot component dot ts. Right? Export, don't do this thing. Class mobile component, use ngGC at component and can you tell me selector is important, app mobile, then what is remaining? style styles standalone or template
HTML
and standalone true. Okay, so I will write in a same line. Let's go to the app component TS, and in here I can say section h1 custom events and simply call app mobile. App mobile is not available, just import it. Mobile component. Okay, now it is there. Mobile component. Now if you remember, we have seen at input, correct? At what? Input. At input custom so here let's have input type. That's why you shouldn't write it over here, because you don't get IntelliSense here. Input type range. Input type what? Range minimum is equals to 1 and max is equals to 100, and right now value minimum 1, maximum 100, and present value is 20. Okay, can you see 20? This seek bar we have created. Now seek bar which event we have? So I want if I move this, I want to increase or decrease the I want to increase or decrease what? Font. I want to increase or decrease the font of any of the component outside. So this is your app component.
That range you specify is what?
Range means it will go from 1 to 100.
Okay, that what is that control you can say?
Say that again.
I mean, control like edit control. You said type is equal to text. So this range
is a built-in HTML5 control. Input type range. For the
but the display, I mean, we can say slider or progress bar kind of.
Here you can see, right?
What it called in Angular? What was the word you were saying?
No, I'm not understanding what you are saying.
So the control you see on the in the browser, what it called?
Range bar, seek bar, this, right?
Seek bar.
Yeah. Okay. It's a range bar. Some people call it as a range bar. Some people call it as a seek bar. Right? Range bar or seek bar, whatever. Now what I want to do, what I wanted to do, I want to, this is my h1 binding. I want to increase the font size of this guy. Style dot font size, style dot font size. Presently it's a 1 em, 1 em. Can you see binding is right now 1 em? I can make it 2 em, it will increase. But what I want to do, this app mobile will give me the event. It should give me the event on changing of this seek bar. So I can write my own event over here like this, on range, or range would be the event, custom event we are writing. And in the app component, here we can say header HDSZ, header size is 1 em. So here what we can do, here 1, here we can say 1, sorry, HDSZ em, HDSZ em, right? What is the HDSZ? Let's try to make it 3. Okay, this thing is not working actually. That's why React is better. So here, this, in this way, this will not work. So we need to write, it's actually a quote. Here we need to write em, and here I can say HDSZ. Now this is absolutely mess.
Concatenation?
Yeah, we need to do that concatenation only. Okay, I think because of this guy it is happening. Mobile, let's do it. Let's try it again. Let's em HDSZ. No, this is a bad, actually doesn't work. No, it doesn't work in this way, right? And that's why.
Can you increase the size? Maybe it is 1 times.
It's a 3 em actually.
Okay.
You need to style binding dot em, and I can say HDSZ. Yeah, now it is working. So here you need to define the unit, style dot font size dot em. Getting my point? Here you need to define the unit. Now what I want to do, I want to change this variable over here. See, over here, which means that this mobile component should throw this, or app range. Let's make it app range, and here we can say range component, and here you need to import the range component. Okay, this is the range component. So on change of this range, you get one event called as on change. In Angular, it's a change. So that's why don't write it over here. There is a reason. You don't get IntelliSense. So here we can say handle change. Handle what? Change. And then here you can say E is of type event, and change handle change dollar event. Dollar what? Event. Now once we so again we need to do input element here, $e is equals to input element, and here we can say range value is 0 right now. So here we can say this dot range value is equals to that input element dot value. You'll get that value, and here we need to parse it to the integer. This is a TypeScript as int, as number, or more precisely you can do it parse int. That would be more better because this is the number and this will give you a string. Okay, that is okay. So you have got this range, but inside this component you have got the range inside the component. But remember that the app mobile is your own element. This app mobile is your own element. Now this own element should emit the event to the outside world. That's why we need something called as range is of type event emitter. Event emitter, and it will emit the number is equals to new event emitter. It is going to emit the data of type number. That's why in the brackets we have written the number, and here you can say at output. So at input creates the custom property, at output creates the custom event. Range is equals to dollar event. The dollar event would be the integer. In this case, what you are throwing from here, you are throwing the integer value, yet you are not throwing range dot emit, and you can emit this dot range value. You can emit this range value, this dot range dot emit this range value. Now if the name of this variable is a range, your event name becomes the range. So event name becomes the range, and here you are emitting the integer value. So the dollar event will contain one integer. So here we can say hd sz header size is equals to dollar event. In this case, dollar event would be having the integer value. Just refresh it. Custom events. Is there any error? Yes, there is an error. Why? Dollar event. So here we can say range value. You have created event emitter. This dot range dot emit, this dot range value. Handle change dollar event. What's the concern then? Oh, okay. So here you can use the input event, and to this value we can assign this variable range value. Still there is an error. input type range, app range. Is it creating any problem? Let's remove this thing. App, oh okay, we have changed the name range component. App mobile is not known element. App mobile, okay, app range is there. So this is happens if you change runtime app range. Okay, now if you wanna show the number, how much is the range, you can add the range value over here. So you can see this is 100, this is 1, and this is 100. Okay, now I want to increase or decrease the font size of this binding. So I need to emit the event. So here you can say range is equals to HDSZ is equals to dollar event. Refresh it, and can you see the font is getting increased or decreased on this range bar. This is custom event. We have created custom range event. The way we have created custom input, custom property at input, in the same fashion we have created custom event. So this is your custom element. To the custom element there is a custom event, right? So event emitter, I will revise it once again, okay, tomorrow. But you can revise this code also. So this is all about data binding. Today we have covered only one new concept, that is nothing but what the event emitter. Data binding and custom events. So in this file you will see all the event bindings. Also we created our own component app range. To that app range component we have created our own custom event. And that we have thrown outside of this component. Event binding means what? Throwing the event outside of the component. So event is happening inside the app range, but we have taken it out by means of custom event handling. Remember that this is an inline function. Although it looks like a simple assignment, it is an inline function. You can write in this form also. But to keep things in front of you,
this HDSZ get the value from that event.
Yes, HDSZ is a variable in an app component.
Right.
And
so here, I mean, you are changing the value of that first section.
Correct.
From here.
Here.
And here HDSZ variable is updated with the value returned from the event.
Yes, app range event. Correct.
And then and you assign this HDSZ to that first section.
First section here.
That's why you can change the size.
Correct.
See the change the size of
Correct. So data binding is a heart of Angular. Data binding means all these, not only one thing. Data binding comprises all these concepts. It is a heart of Angular, and it's a bit challenging concept.
Yeah.
You might need time to understand this, and you might need the revision. So do not expect that you should understand in a one go. It will take time. Okay. Fine. Let's call it for a day. We'll meet tomorrow. Let me stop the recording.